fans of science fiction have simultaneously seen something similar to Max's new adult animated series Scavengers Reign and absolutely nothing like it before. It's a dichotomy that the show's creative team leaned into when trying to create a world that houses a group of surviving crew members from the Demeter, a deep space freighter ship damaged by a solar flare and stranded on a beautiful but terrifying planet. Separated and unaware the others have survived, each group, and in some cases a single individual, attempts to navigate and survive the hostile planet in hopes of eventual rescue. Fans of science fiction have simultaneously seen something similar to Max's new adult animated series Scavengers Reign and absolutely nothing like it before. It's a dichotomy that the show's creative team leaned into when trying to create a world that houses a group of surviving crew members from the Demeter, a deep space freighter ship damaged by a solar flare and stranded on a beautiful but terrifying planet. Separated and unaware the others have survived, each group and in some cases a single individual, attempts to navigate and survive the hostile planet in hopes of eventual rescue. This was based on a short film. How did that help guide you as you moved into a longer form? Benji Brook. The short was extremely helpful. There is a core device in the show, which is the different creatures on the planet that are utilized by our characters in surprising ways. That is just an inherently interesting visual thing every time you see it. The show has this brilliant device that was really set up in the short that we use for the entire series, and I think no matter what is happening with the characters, even as a writer, when these things happen, we would call them processes. So if a character takes a creature and uses it as a breathing mask, they have tubes that go up its nose, and it's converting toxic gases into oxygen. This is just a compelling thing to see out of context, and it's a real strength of the show, so having that set up in the short was huge. You can see there's so many ways we could go with this. Another benefit we had with this show, which a lot of shows don't have, is we made a pilot. That sounds strange, because everybody assumes everything just has a pilot. But frankly, a lot of shows I've worked on just go straight into series. Maybe it gets developed with the scripts, and then on episode 1, you're making the show. Especially in animation, you have to figure out how to make the show as you're going along. We had the benefit of not only having a short, but a fully produced pilot that got made, went up, and then went dark before the series production started. When we got into making the series, we went back into the pilot, we did a little bit of rewriting and tweaking to set up some things later on in the series. But both of those things were hugely helpful and really cut the teeth of the content of the show. James Merrill in the short, the processes that the characters are interacting with, it's clear that they've already done this many, many times. That's a cool expositional device that we use in the show itself to show how long these people have been here. How comfortable they are using the aliens. It's just like, God, I hate it here, and then putting the mask back. That's one of my favorite little moments. I love that throughout the whole show, you use animation as a visual language to tell a story in a way that you can just strip away exposition. It's such an odd delivery of that kind of exposition that I thought was such an enjoyable thing to produce, and hopefully, is enjoyable to watch. What I fell in love with in the short was the end of it. It made the whole thing feel like this beautiful haiku. It's this little contained breath of an idea. It's these characters building this Rube Goldberg machine out of aliens, and you think they're building towards something really bombastic because the process is so big, but then it ends up being something really sensitive and mundane. It's just a glimpse of life in Manhattan on the street, being around people again and being normal on Earth. That idea is the lodestar for the whole show, even though we don't do that in the series. It's this feeling of wanting to return to normalcy, into what you lost. It became the Bible of how we came to approach the show on a spiritual level. During your New York Comic Con panel, you mentioned several unexpected live-action influences on the series. Annihilation actually came to mind while watching. Was there anything else you considered? Joe Bennett. A big inspiration was a YouTube channel called Primitive Technology. It's basically a guy who lives out in New Zealand, and the whole point of the show is that he builds different things in the woods, a hut or a clay oven. He makes it from scratch, so even when he starts a fire, there's no process that's skipped.